They accused him of chasing money, but the truth was something no one was ready to face. A poor black boy no one trusted became the only one who stayed beside a dying billionaire everyone else had abandoned, even his own family. No one understood why he refused to leave, until the man died, and a hidden secret began to unravel everything. 5 years later, the entire town was stunned to discover that one quiet act of kindness had the power to bring back what money never could. The fluorescent lights hummed softly above room 427, casting a pale, almost lifeless glow over everything they touched. The walls were too white, too clean, like they were trying to erase something. Outside, through the narrow window, the sky over Detroit hung low and gray, pressing down on the city like a heavy hand. Inside the room, machines beeped in slow, steady rhythms. A heart monitor blinked green lines across its screen. Oxygen hissed faintly through a thin tube, and in the middle of it all lay William Whitmore, the man who once owned half the skyline, now reduced to a fragile figure beneath a thin hospital blanket. Beside him sat a boy. Malik Carter didn't look like he belonged there. He was small for his age, his hoodie worn thin at the elbows, the fabric faded from too many washes. His sneakers were scuffed, one lace tied tighter than the other. His dark eyes stayed fixed on the man in the bed, watching every shallow rise and fall of Whitmore's chest, as if it mattered more than anything else in the world. Because to Malik it did. A paper cup of water rested in his hand, untouched. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and something else, something quieter. Loneliness, maybe. The kind that clung to the corners and settled into the silence. From the hallway, voices drifted in, low, curious, judgmental. That him? Yeah, that's the kid. What's he doing in there? A pause, then a quiet scoff. Waiting, probably. Man's worth billions. Kid like that? You think he don't know? Another voice, softer but sharper. They always show up when there's money involved. Malik heard every word. He didn't turn, didn't react. He just sat there, still as the machines around him, his fingers tightening slightly around the paper cup. He was used to it, used to the looks, the assumptions, the way people decided who he was before he even opened his mouth. To them, he wasn't a boy. He was a story they'd already written. Whitmore shifted slightly in the bed, a faint sound escaping his lips. Malik leaned forward immediately, setting the cup aside. "Hey," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "You okay?" No response. The man's face was pale, his skin carrying a yellow tint that even Malik at 12 knew wasn't a good sign. He'd seen it before. Not here. Somewhere else. Somewhere he didn't like thinking about. Malik reached out, hesitating for just a second before gently resting his hand on the edge of the bed. "You ain't alone," he murmured. The words felt small in the big, empty room, but they were all he had. Footsteps approached outside. The door cracked open and a nurse peeked in, her eyes flicking from Malik to the patient. "You still here?" she asked. Not unkindly, but not warmly either. Malik nodded. "I said I'd stay." She hesitated, glancing at the chart clipped near the door. He's not really responsive," she said. "You don't have to—" "I know," Malik interrupted gently. The nurse studied him for a moment, something unreadable passing across her face. Then she sighed softly. "All right. Just don't touch the equipment." Malik nodded again. The door closed. Silence returned. Outside, the whispers faded, replaced by the distant echo of carts rolling and monitors beeping in other rooms. Life continuing, somewhere beyond these walls. But in room 427, time felt slower, heavier. Malik shifted in his chair, pulling it a little closer to the bed. He glanced at the window, at the dull gray sky, then back at the man lying there. He didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like someone forgotten. Malik swallowed, his throat suddenly tight. "My mama says," he began quietly, eyes still on Whitmore, "that nobody should have to be alone when it matters." He let out a small breath. "She says, that's when people need somebody the most." The machines kept their steady rhythm. For a long moment, nothing changed. Then, a flicker. Whitmore's fingers twitched. It was small, barely noticeable. But Malik saw it. His eyes widened and he leaned in closer. "Hey," he whispered again, softer this time. "You hear me?" The old man's eyelids shifted slightly, like he was trying to push through something heavy, something deep. Malik didn't move, didn't breathe. Outside, somewhere down the hall, a phone rang. Inside the room, the air felt different now, thinner, tighter. Whitmore's lips parted just slightly, a faint, broken breath escaping. Malik's heart pounded in his chest. "Yeah," he said, voice steady despite it all. "That's it. You good. Just stay with me, all right?" The boy reached for the cup of water again, but stopped halfway, unsure. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't a doctor, wasn't a nurse, just a kid in the wrong place according to everyone else. But he stayed. Because leaving didn't feel right. Because something in him, something quiet but stubborn, refused to walk away. Time stretched. Minutes passed. Maybe more. Whitmore's breathing steadied again, falling back into that slow, fragile rhythm. The moment faded. But Malik didn't pull back. He sat there, watching, waiting. The door outside opened again. This time the voices were sharper, more official. A man in a suit stepped in briefly, glancing at Malik with thinly veiled suspicion before turning to the nurse. "That's him?" he asked quietly. The nurse nodded. The man's gaze lingered on Malik for a second longer than necessary. Then he turned away, already dismissing him. Malik felt it. That look. Like he didn't belong. Like he was something to be explained away. He lowered his eyes for a moment, staring at the worn fabric of his sleeves. Then slowly, he looked back up at Whitmore. At the man no one else had stayed for. Malik leaned closer, his voice barely more than breath. "I don't care what they say," he whispered. His fingers rested lightly on the edge of the blanket, not touching. Just there. "I'm not leaving you." The machines continued their quiet song, and for the first time in days, the room didn't feel completely empty. Malik didn't know why that mattered so much. He just knew it did. He stayed until the hallway lights dimmed and the nurses started moving slower, their voices softer, their footsteps echoing longer between shifts. At some point, someone told him visiting hours were over. At some point, a security guard lingered by the door a little too long, but no one forced him out. Not yet. When Malik finally stood, his legs felt stiff, like he'd forgotten how to move. He glanced one last time at the man in the bed, William Whitmore, the name still echoing in his mind from what he'd overheard, and then quietly slipped out into the hallway. The whispers followed him. They let him stay that long? Kid probably thinks he hit the lottery. Watch. These things never end clean. Malik kept walking. He didn't look at them, didn't slow down, didn't say a word. Outside, the cold hit him fast. Detroit nights didn't ease you in. They grabbed you by the collar and reminded you where you were. The streetlights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows across cracked sidewalks. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, then faded into the city's constant hum. Malik pulled his hoodie tighter around himself and started walking. Home wasn't far, just a few blocks past the corner store, past the boarded-up laundromat, past the alley where the stray cats gathered around dented trash cans. The neighborhood didn't change much. Same broken fences, same flickering porch lights, same tired buildings leaning into each other like they were holding themselves up. He reached the apartment building and paused before going in. 3rd floor, no elevator. Always smelled like old paint and something burnt. He pushed the door open anyway. Inside, the hallway was dim, the overhead light flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay alive. Malik climbed the stairs 2 at a time, his steps quiet out of habit. When he reached their door, he hesitated, listening, coughing, soft, weak. But there. He exhaled slowly and stepped inside. The apartment was small, just 1 bedroom, a narrow kitchen, and a living space barely big enough for a couch that had seen better years. The air was warmer than outside, but not by much. A space heater hummed in the corner, fighting a losing battle against the cold creeping through the walls. On the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket, his mother lay curled on her side. "Malak?" she called softly without opening her eyes. "I'm here, Ma," he said, closing the door behind him. She turned her head slightly, her face pale under the dim light. "You late?" "I know." He slipped off his shoes and set them by the door. Had to stop somewhere. She studied him for a moment, like she wanted to ask more but didn't have the energy. "You eat?" she asked instead. Malik nodded, even though it wasn't true. "Yeah, at the diner." She seemed relieved. "Good," she murmured. "Don't go to bed hungry." Malik forced a small smile. "I won't." He moved quietly into the kitchen, opening the fridge. Inside there wasn't much. A carton of milk that looked close to turning, half a loaf of bread, a jar of something that used to be peanut butter. He closed it again. His stomach tightened, but he ignored it. Instead, he grabbed a glass, filled it with water, and drank slowly, like that might trick his body into feeling full. From the living room, his mother coughed again, harder this time. Malik set the glass down and walked over quickly. "You okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded, though it didn't look convincing. "Just tired," she said. "Doctor says I need rest." Malik didn't say anything. They both knew rest wasn't the problem. He adjusted the blanket around her shoulders, tucking it in like she used to do for him when he was younger. "You take your meds?" he asked. She hesitated. "Yeah." Another lie. Malik didn't call her out on it. He just nodded. "I'll get more tomorrow," he said quietly. She looked at him then, really looked at him, like she could see the weight he was carrying. "You working too much," she whispered. "You're just a kid." Malik shrugged. "Gotta do something." Her hand reached out, weak but steady, and rested against his cheek. "You got a good heart," she said softly. "Don't let this place take that from you." Malik swallowed. "I won't," but even as he said it, he thought about the voices in the hospital hallway, about the way people looked at him, about how easy it would be to stop caring, to stop stopping, to just walk past. He pulled back gently and stood. "I got an early shift," he said. "You should sleep." She nodded, already drifting. Malik turned off the lamp and moved to the small corner that served as his room. A thin mattress on the floor, a pile of clothes in the corner, a backpack leaning against the wall. He sat down slowly, staring at nothing. Then, without really thinking about it, he reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out something small, a folded napkin. From the hospital. He didn't remember grabbing it. But there it was. Malik stared at it for a long moment, then let out a quiet breath and leaned back against the wall. His mind drifted back to the room, to the machines, to the man in the bed, to the way his fingers had twitched, to the way no one else had been there. Malik closed his eyes. 3 days, he whispered to himself. That's what the man had said. 3 days with no one talking to him. Malik shook his head slowly. I ain't letting that happen again. The decision settled into him, quiet but firm. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Inside, the heater hummed. And in the stillness of that small, worn apartment, Malik made a choice that no one else would understand. The next morning came too fast. The alarm on his old phone buzzed at 5:30 a.m., dragging him out of a shallow sleep. Malik sat up immediately, like he'd trained himself not to waste time. Every minute mattered. He got dressed in the dark, careful not to wake his mother, and slipped out into the cold. The diner sat on the corner of 8th and Marshall, its neon sign flickering between open and something that looked like pen. Inside, the smell of grease and coffee hit you before the door even closed. Late again, the owner muttered as Malik stepped in. Sorry, Mr. Jenkins, Malik said quickly, grabbing an apron. Sorry, don't keep the lights on, the man replied, already turning away. Malik didn't argue. He moved fast, wiping tables, clearing plates, refilling coffee for customers who barely looked at him. Hey, kid, one man snapped, tapping his empty cup. Malik hurried over. Yes, sir. The man glanced him up and down. You even old enough to be working here? Malik forced a polite smile. Just helping out, sir. The man snorted. Yeah, that's what they all say. Laughter rippled from the booth behind him. Malik poured the coffee anyway. Didn't spill a drop. Didn't react. Didn't let it show. Because he needed this job. Because he needed the money. Because his mother needed those meds. Hours passed like that. Noise. Heat. Orders shouted across the kitchen. And all the while something sat in the back of Malik's mind. Room 427. When his shift finally ended, Malik didn't go home. Didn't stop. Didn't hesitate. He pulled off his apron, handed it back without a word, and stepped out into the cold again. The hospital loomed in the distance. Gray. Quiet. Waiting. Malik started walking. He didn't know what he was walking back to. Didn't know if they'd even let him in again. Didn't know if the man would still be there. But he knew one thing. He wasn't going to be the kind of person who walked past. Not anymore. And as he pushed through the hospital doors once again, the same whispers began to rise. The same looks. The same judgment. But this time, Malik didn't feel small. He walked straight down the hallway, past the stairs, past the doubt, past everything that told him he didn't belong. Because somewhere down that corridor, there was a man who had no one. And Malik had already decided he wasn't leaving him alone. The hospital doors slid open with a soft mechanical sigh, and the cold morning air followed him inside for just a moment before disappearing. Malik stepped forward, shoulders squared, eyes focused straight ahead. The hallway hadn't changed. Same pale walls, same buzzing lights, same quiet judgment hanging in the air. But something inside him had. He walked past the front desk without stopping. A nurse looked up, her eyes narrowing slightly in recognition, but she didn't say anything. Not yet. Malik kept going. Room 427. Each step felt heavier the closer he got, like something was waiting for him there. Something important. something he didn't fully understand. When he reached the door, he paused, not out of fear, out of respect. Then he pushed it open. The room was just as he left it. Same machines, same steady beeping, same gray light filtering through the window. And there, still lying in that bed, was William Whitmore, still breathing, still alone. Malik let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "You still here?" he murmured, stepping inside. He pulled the chair closer again, the legs scraping softly against the floor. This time he didn't hesitate before sitting down. Didn't wait to be told he didn't belong. He just stayed. For a while there was only silence. Then, "You came back." The voice was weak, rough, like it had to fight its way out. Malik froze. Slowly, he leaned forward. Whitmore's eyes were open, blue, faded, but sharp in a way that didn't match the rest of him. "You remember me?" Malik asked carefully. A faint flicker of something passed across the old man's face. Not quite a smile. Not quite disbelief. "You're hard to miss," Whitmore whispered. Malik let out a small breath, almost a laugh. "I thought you might not wake up. I thought so too," Whitmore replied. The machines continued their quiet rhythm, like they were listening. Malik shifted in his seat. "You feeling okay?" he asked. Whitmore gave a slight, almost invisible shrug. "As good as someone in my position gets." Malik nodded, even though he didn't fully understand what that meant. He glanced around the room again. Still empty. Still no flowers. Still no pictures. Still no sign that anyone else had been there. "You got family?" Malik asked after a moment. Whitmore's gaze drifted toward the ceiling. "I had," he said. Past tense. That told Malik enough. He swallowed and looked down at his hands. "I can go if you want," he added quietly. "I don't want to bother you." Whitmore's eyes shifted back to him. "Stay." The word came out faster than the others, stronger, like it mattered. Malik nodded once. "Okay." Another silence settled between them, but it felt different this time. Less empty, less cold. Whitmore studied the boy for a long moment. "Why are you here?" he asked finally. Malik shrugged. "You looked like you needed somebody." Whitmore let out a slow breath. "That's not usually how this works." Malik frowned slightly. "What you mean?" "People don't usually stop," Whitmore said. "Especially not for someone like me." Malik tilted his head. "What's wrong with someone like you?" For a second, something almost like amusement flickered in the old man's eyes. "You really don't know who I am, do you?" Malik shook his head. "Should I?" Whitmore stared at him. Then slowly, he laughed. It wasn't a strong laugh, more like a memory of one. "No," he said. "No, you shouldn't." Malik leaned back in his chair. "Good," he said. "'Cause I don't really care." That made Whitmore pause. "Most people do," he said. "Yeah," Malik replied. "Most people also walked right past you last night." That landed. Whitmore's expression shifted, something deeper moving beneath the surface. "You didn't," he said. Malik shrugged again, like it wasn't a big deal. Didn't feel right. The old man studied him more carefully now, as if trying to figure out something that didn't make sense. "Where are your parents?" Whitmore asked. "My mom," Malik said. "She at home. Sick." Whitmore's gaze softened, just a fraction. "And you're here, instead of with her?" "I'm with her all the time," Malik said quickly. She resting right now. He hesitated, then added quietly, I just didn't want you sitting here by yourself. The machines beeped on. Whitmore looked away again, toward the window. Detroit stretched out beyond the glass, gray, tired, but still alive. I've spent my entire life surrounded by people, he said slowly. Employees, partners, investors. He paused. And yet, this is the first time I've felt truly seen in years. Malik didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. He just stayed. Minutes passed. Then footsteps approached the door. It opened without knocking. A man in a sharp gray suit stepped inside, followed by a woman in heels that clicked too loudly against the floor. Behind them, a nurse hovered uncertainly. The man's eyes landed on Malak immediately, and hardened. What is he doing here? He asked, not even trying to lower his voice. Malik straightened slightly in his chair. Whitmore didn't answer. The woman crossed her arms. Is this some kind of joke? She said. You let random kids wander into private rooms now? The nurse shifted uncomfortably. I don't care how long he's been here. The man cut in. He shouldn't be. Malik felt the weight of their stares pressing down on him. Familiar. Heavy. The same look people always gave him. Like he didn't belong. Like he never would. He started to stand. I can go, he said quietly. No. Whitmore's voice, though weak, cut through the room. Everyone froze. The man in the suit frowned. Mr. Whitmore, this isn't appropriate. He stays, Whitmore said. The words weren't loud, but they carried. The woman scoffed. You don't even know who he is. Whitmore's eyes shifted back to Malik, then to them. He knows enough, he said. Silence. Tense. Thick. Uncomfortable. Malik slowly sat back down. Didn't look at them. Didn't say anything. But inside, something shifted again. Because for the first time, someone had chosen him to stay. The man in the suit adjusted his tie, clearly irritated. We'll discuss this later, he muttered, turning toward the nurse. Make sure this doesn't happen again. They left as quickly as they came. The door shut behind them. The room exhaled. Malik stared at the floor for a moment, then looked back at Whitmore. You didn't have to do that, he said. Whitmore studied him. Yes, he said quietly. I did. Malik didn't fully understand why, but he felt it. Something changing. Something bigger than both of them. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside room 427, two people who should have never crossed paths sat in silence, and for the first time, neither of them felt completely alone. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was steady, like something had settled in the room that hadn't been there before. Malik leaned back in his chair, his hands resting loosely on his knees. He glanced at the door, half expecting it to swing open again with more people, more voices, more judgment, but it stayed closed. Whitmore shifted slightly in the bed, his breathing uneven but calmer than before. His eyes stayed on Malik, studying him like he was trying to understand something unfamiliar. You didn't leave, Whitmore said after a while. Malik shrugged. Told you I wouldn't. Whitmore let out a faint breath that almost sounded like a laugh. People say things like that all the time, he murmured. They just don't usually mean it. Malik tilted his head. Why? Whitmore didn't answer right away. Instead, his gaze drifted again, to the window, to the gray sky hanging over the city, to something far beyond it. Because I gave them reasons not to, he said finally. Malik frowned slightly. That don't make sense. It will, Whitmore replied. Eventually. Malik didn't push. He wasn't here to figure the man out. He was just here. A few minutes passed before Malik reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled something out. A small, crumpled paper bag. He smoothed it out carefully and set it on the bedside table. Whitmore glanced at it. What's that? Lunch, Malik said. Whitmore raised an eyebrow. That looks questionable. Malik almost smiled. It's just a sandwich. From the diner. Whitmore stared at it for a moment longer. Then at Malik, you brought me food? Malik nodded. Yeah. Didn't see nobody else bringing you nothing. The words were simple, but they landed harder than anything else had. Whitmore's eyes flickered, not with surprise, but with something deeper, something quieter. No one has, he admitted. Malik shrugged again, like it wasn't a big deal. Well, now you got something. He pushed the bag a little closer. Whitmore didn't reach for it. Not right away. Instead, he looked at Malik like he was trying to memorize him. You don't know who I am, Whitmore said again. Malik sighed softly. You keep saying that, and you keep not caring. 'Cause it don't matter, Malik replied. Whitmore studied him. For most people, he said slowly, it's the only thing that matters. Malik leaned back in his chair. Then most people wrong. That earned him another one of those faint, almost laughs. Whitmore reached slowly, his hand trembling slightly, and touched the edge of the paper bag. I used to think money could fix everything, he said. That if I just worked hard enough, built enough, owned enough, everything else would fall into place. Malik watched him quietly. Whitmore's fingers tightened slightly, but it doesn't work like that. He continued. You build something big enough. It starts to cost you things you don't even notice at first. His voice grew quieter. Time, people, moments. Malik shifted in his chair. You got kids? He asked. Whitmore's hand stilled. For a moment, the machines seemed louder. I did, he said, past tense again. Malik felt it this time. Didn't ask more. Whitmore swallowed slowly. A son, he added after a moment. And a daughter. What happened? Whitmore closed his eyes briefly. I was busy. Malik frowned. That's it? Whitmore opened his eyes again, a shadow passing through them. That was enough. The room fell quiet again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was heavy. Malik glanced at the sandwich. You should eat, he said gently. Whitmore looked at it again. Then slowly he picked it up. His hands weren't steady, but he managed. Took a small bite. Chewed. Swallowed. For a moment nothing changed. Then, a faint shift in his expression. Not joy. Not even relief, just something real. I don't remember the last time someone brought me food, Whitmore said quietly. Malik shrugged. It's just a sandwich. Whitmore shook his head slightly. No, he said. It's not. Malik didn't argue. Because maybe he understood. Outside the room, footsteps passed by. Voices murmured. A cart rattled down the hallway. Life continued. But inside room 427, something had slowed down. Whitmore leaned back slightly, exhaustion creeping into his features again. You should be somewhere else, he said after a while. School. Home. With your mother. Malik looked down at his hands. I'll go later. Whitmore watched him. You keep doing that, he said. Putting other people first. Malik shrugged again. Somebody gotta. Whitmore studied him for a long moment. People will take advantage of that, he said. Yeah, Malik replied. They already do. Whitmore's gaze sharpened slightly. And you still do it? Malik met his eyes. Yeah. A pause. Why? Malik thought about it. Really thought about it. Then he said, 'Cause if I stop, then I'm just like everybody else. Whitmore didn't respond, but something in his face changed, like a piece of something old, something buried, had just been touched. Time passed slowly after that. Whitmore dozed in and out, the sandwich half finished on the tray. Malik stayed in his chair, watching, waiting, making sure the man didn't slip back into that silence he'd found him in. At one point, the door opened again. This time, it was just a nurse. She paused when she saw Malik still there. You again? She said, softer this time. Malik nodded. Yeah. She glanced at Whitmore, then at the sandwich, then back at Malik. Her expression shifted slightly. Not suspicion, not quite. Something closer to understanding. He's been more responsive today, she said quietly. Malik looked at Whitmore. Yeah, he replied. He ate. The nurse nodded slowly. That helps. She hesitated for a moment, then added, Just don't stay too late, okay? Malik nodded again. I won't. She left without another word. Malik leaned back in his chair again, exhaling slowly. Whitmore stirred slightly. You still here? He murmured, half asleep. Malik glanced at him. Yeah. A pause. Then Whitmore whispered, Why? Malik didn't hesitate this time. 'Cause you shouldn't be alone. Whitmore's breathing steadied again, but his expression softened, like something inside him had finally loosened. Outside, the sky began to darken again, another day slipping into night. Another stretch of time most people wouldn't notice. But in that room, every minute mattered. Malik stood slowly, stretching his stiff legs. I gotta go soon, he said quietly. But I'll come back. Whitmore didn't open his eyes, but he said, I know. Malik hesitated by the door, then turned back. You gonna be okay? He asked. Whitmore's voice came softer now. I am, he said. A pause. For now. Malik nodded. Then he stepped out into the hallway. The whispers were still there. The looks hadn't changed. But something else had. Because inside that room, for the first time in a long time, William Whitmore had been seen. And Malik Carter, the boy no one trusted, had just become the only person who stayed. But in a place like that, kindness didn't go unnoticed. It made people uncomfortable. The next day, the hospital felt different the moment Malik stepped through the doors. Not colder, sharper. Eyes followed him more openly now. Nurses whispered a little less quietly. A man behind the front desk glanced up, then immediately picked up the phone like Malik's presence required reporting. Malik ignored it. He kept walking. Room 427. Same hallway, same flickering lights. But something in the air had shifted. When he reached the door, it was already half open. Voices inside. Tense. He slowed his steps, stopping just before the threshold. I'm telling you, this is unacceptable, a woman's voice snapped. We don't even know who this kid is. I'm aware, another voice replied. Calmer, controlled. a man. But Mr. Whitmore has been unusually specific about allowing him here. That doesn't make it right, she shot back. He's vulnerable. People like that take advantage. Malik stood still. He knew they were talking about him. He almost turned around. Almost. Then he heard Whitmore's voice. Weak, but clear. He stays. Silence, the kind that pressed against the walls. The woman exhaled sharply. This is exactly what I mean, she said. You don't see it, but I do. I've watched people circle you your whole life, William. Smiling, waiting, taking. Malik felt something tighten in his chest. He didn't belong here. Not in this conversation. Not in this world. You think he's different? She continued. Look at him. Where he comes from. You really think this is just kindness? Malik stepped back. That was enough. He turned. Malik. His name stopped him cold. Whitmore had said it. Malik hesitated, then slowly turned back. The door creaked slightly as he pushed it open. Inside, the room felt smaller than before, more crowded, more tense. Whitmore lay in the bed, paler than yesterday, but his eyes were open, focused, locked on Malik. Beside him stood the woman, mid-40s, dressed sharp, eyes sharper. Next to her, the man in the gray suit from before, arms crossed, expression unreadable. All three of them looked at Malik. Only one of them wanted him there. You came, Whitmore said. Malik nodded slowly. Yeah. The woman let out a small, disbelieving laugh. You just walk right in like this is your place? Malik didn't answer. He didn't have one. The man in the suit stepped forward slightly. You shouldn't be here, he said evenly. This is a private matter. Malik shifted his weight. I was just... He was visiting me, Whitmore interrupted. The man's jaw tightened. Mr. Whitmore, we've already discussed, and I've already answered, Whitmore said. The words came slower now, but they still carried weight. The woman crossed her arms. This is exactly the problem, she said. You've always been too trusting at the worst possible moments. Whitmore's eyes didn't leave Malik. Not always, he said quietly. Malik stood there, unsure. He felt it again, that pressure, that weight of being judged without being known. Same as the diner, same as the street. Different rooms, same story. I can go, Malik said again, softer this time. Whitmore shook his head. No. Malik hesitated. The woman scoffed. You're really going to do this? She said. You're going to push your own family aside for some kid you met yesterday? That word hung in the air. Family. Malik glanced at her, then at Whitmore. Something didn't line up. Whitmore's expression didn't soften, didn't change. I pushed you aside a long time ago, he said quietly. The room froze. The woman's face tightened. That's not fair. It's accurate. The man in the suit stepped in quickly. Let's not do this here, he said. We're here to discuss the estate. I'm not discussing anything, Whitmore cut in. His voice cracked slightly, but he pushed through. Not with people who only show up when I'm dying. Silence. Sharp. Unforgiving. Malik felt like he shouldn't be hearing this, like he'd stepped into something too big, too personal, too broken. The woman's voice dropped, colder now. You think he's here for you, she said, nodding toward Malik. He's here for what comes after. Malik flinched. Just slightly, but enough. Whitmore saw it, and something in his expression shifted. "You're wrong," he said. The woman shook her head. "I've seen this before," she said. "People like him, that's enough." Whitmore's voice didn't rise, but it stopped everything. The machines beeped louder in the silence that followed. Malik stood there, frozen. He didn't know what to say, didn't know how to defend himself. Because he wasn't supposed to be here. He knew that. He always knew that. But still, he stayed. "I brought you something," Malik said quietly, pulling the small paper bag from his hoodie. He placed it on the table. Same as yesterday. Simple. Uncomplicated. Real. Whitmore looked at it, then at him. And for the first time since they'd started arguing, he smiled. It was small, but it was there. The woman noticed, and that made it worse. "This is unbelievable," she muttered. The man in the suit checked his watch. "We'll continue this later," he said. "Mr. Whitmore needs rest." They turned to leave, but before stepping out, the woman paused at the door. She looked back at Malik, her eyes cold. "Enjoy it while it lasts," she said quietly. "People like you don't get to stay in rooms like this." Then she was gone. The door shut behind her, and the room fell silent again. Malik stood there for a long moment, then slowly sat back down. He stared at his hands, didn't look at Whitmore. "I ain't here for that," he said. Whitmore watched him. "I know." Malik shook his head. "They think I am." "I know." Malik swallowed. "Maybe I shouldn't come back." The words felt heavy, like they didn't belong in his mouth. Whitmore leaned forward slightly. "You will." Malik looked up. Whitmore's eyes were steady now, certain. "Because you're not like them," he said. Malik frowned. "You don't even know me." Whitmore held his gaze. "I know enough." Silence. Then Malik exhaled slowly. "They ain't gonna stop," he said. "No," Whitmore replied. "They won't." Malik nodded, then reached for the chair again, pulled it closer. "Same spot, same distance. I still got time before my shift," he said. Whitmore leaned back into the pillow. "Good." The machines settled into their rhythm again, but something had changed. The kindness that had once gone unnoticed was now being watched, questioned, resisted. Because in a world built on power and suspicion, a boy who gave without asking for anything in return was the most dangerous thing of all. And somewhere beyond that hospital room, something had already started moving. Something quiet, something legal, something that would change everything. But Malik didn't know that yet. All he knew was that he wasn't leaving. The room was quieter that afternoon. Not empty, but heavier. Like something had been said that couldn't be taken back. Whitmore hadn't spoken for a long time after his daughter left. He lay still, eyes half open, staring at the ceiling as if something there was holding his attention. Malik didn't rush him, didn't ask questions. He just sat there, elbows resting on his knees, watching the slow rise and fall of the man's chest. Outside, the sky had darkened again. Clouds rolled in low, pressing the light down into a dull gray that made everything feel smaller. "Malik." The voice was softer now, tired, but clearer than before. Malik looked up. "Yeah?" Whitmore didn't turn his head. "Do you know what it's like? To lose something before you realize it mattered?" Malik frowned slightly. "Like what?" Whitmore let out a long breath. "Everything." The word hung there, Simple, but too big for the room. Malik shifted in his chair. I lost stuff before, he said quietly. We lost our old place. Had to move. Lost my grandma, too. Whitmore nodded faintly. But you remember them, he said. You feel them. Malik nodded. Yeah. Whitmore's lips tightened. I didn't, he said. That made Malik look up again. Whitmore's eyes were still fixed on the ceiling. I had a son, he continued. Michael. The name came out differently, softer, like it belonged to another version of him. He was 17, Whitmore said. Smart, loud, always laughing, always waiting for me to show up. Malik didn't speak. Whitmore's voice dropped lower. I missed his games, his birthdays, his life. A pause. I told myself I was building something for him, for them. Malik swallowed. But you weren't there, he said gently. Whitmore closed his eyes. No. The machines filled the silence again. I was in Singapore, Whitmore continued after a moment. Closing a deal. $50 million. Biggest one I'd ever done. His voice cracked slightly. That's when the call came. Malik felt something twist in his chest. What happened? Whitmore didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was barely more than a whisper. Car accident. The word sat heavy. Malik's hands tightened. Whitmore's breathing grew uneven. I didn't leave, he said. Not right away. Malik blinked. What you mean? I stayed, Whitmore said. Finished the deal. Signed the papers. Shook hands. His jaw tightened. By the time I got back... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Malik looked down at the floor. You missed it, he said quietly. Whitmore's eyes opened again, filled with something raw. I missed everything, he said. The room felt colder now, smaller, like the walls had moved in just a little. My daughter never forgave me, Whitmore continued. She stopped calling, stopped visiting, stopped needing me. Malik didn't look up. She still came today, he said. Whitmore gave a hollow smile. For the will. Malik shook his head. You don't know that. Whitmore turned his head slightly, finally looking at him. I do, he said, because I taught her not to come for anything else. That hit differently. Malik shifted again, uncomfortable. You messed up, he said after a moment. Whitmore let out a breath that almost sounded like relief. Yes, Malik nodded. But that don't mean you gotta end like this. Whitmore stared at him. What does that mean? Malik leaned forward. You said you scared of dying alone. Whitmore didn't respond. You ain't alone right now, Malik continued, so don't die like that. The words were simple, but they landed like something heavier. Whitmore blinked slowly. Something in his face broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a crack spreading through something that had been held together too long. You say that like it's a choice, he whispered. Malik shrugged. Maybe it is. Whitmore stared at him, at this kid who had nothing, who had every reason to walk away, and hadn't. You don't understand what I've done, Whitmore said. Malik shook his head. Don't matter. Whitmore's brow furrowed. It should. It don't, Malik repeated. You here now. Silence. Then Whitmore let out a shaky breath. I don't deserve that kind of forgiveness. Malik tilted his head. I ain't forgiving you, he said. I just ain't leaving you. That stopped everything. Whitmore's eyes filled, not with tears exactly, but something close enough. No one had ever said that to him. Not like that. Not without wanting something back. Not without a condition. The machines kept their steady rhythm, but something inside the room had shifted. Deep. Permanent. Whitmore turned his head back toward the ceiling. But this time, he wasn't looking past everything. He was thinking. Really thinking. What's your mother's name? He asked suddenly. Malik blinked. Angela. Whitmore nodded slowly. She's lucky, he said. Malik frowned. She's sick, he replied. Don't feel lucky. Whitmore looked at him again. She raised you to stay, he said. Most people don't learn that. Malik didn't respond, because he didn't know if that was true. He just knew what felt right. Whitmore shifted slightly, wincing, then reached, slowly, carefully, toward the small table beside him. A phone sat there, unused, untouched, for days. Whitmore stared at it. His hand trembled. Then he picked it up. Malik watched him. You gonna call somebody? He asked. Whitmore hesitated, then shook his head. Not yet. He set the phone back down, but something had changed. Malik could see it, a decision forming. Quiet. But real. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, a storm rolling in. Inside the room, the air felt charged, like something was about to happen. Whitmore closed his eyes again, but this time, he didn't look like he was waiting to disappear. He looked like he was preparing. Malik leaned back in his chair, watching him. Hey, he said softly. Whitmore opened one eye. Yeah? Malik hesitated, then said, You still here? Whitmore stared at him, then gave the smallest nod. For now. Malik nodded back. That's enough. The storm outside grew louder, rain tapping against the window, the city fading into gray, and inside room 427, a man who had spent his life building everything but what mattered, had just been given something he didn't think he deserved. Not money, not power, not control, but something far more dangerous. A second chance. And somewhere deep inside that silence, a decision had already been made. Whitmore was not going to leave this world the same way he had lived in it. And Malik, the boy no one trusted, had just become the reason why. But outside that hospital room, life didn't pause. It didn't wait. And it didn't care about second chances. The next morning, Malik woke up to silence. Not the peaceful kind, the wrong kind. Too still, too quiet. He sat up fast on the thin mattress, his heart already racing before he even understood why. Ma? No answer. The light from the cracked window barely touched the room. The heater had gone cold sometime during the night. The air felt heavier than usual. Ma? He called again, louder now. He stood, moving quickly toward the couch. Angela Carter lay exactly where she had the night before, but something was different. Her chest wasn't moving, not the way it should. Malik's breath caught in his throat. Ma? He dropped to his knees beside her, hands shaking as he reached out. Her skin felt too warm, her breathing there but shallow. Weak. Hey, hey, Malik whispered, panic rising fast. Stay with me, okay? Stay with me. He grabbed his phone, fumbling with it. His fingers slipped once, twice. Then finally, 911. What's your emergency? My mom, she ain't breathing right, Malik said, voice cracking. She won't wake up. Stay on the line, the operator said calmly. Is she responsive? No. Help is on the way. Malik stayed there, one hand on his mother's shoulder, the other gripping the phone like it was the only thing keeping him steady. Don't leave me, he whispered. Please, don't leave me. The sirens came fast, too loud. Paramedics rushed in, voices sharp, movements efficient. They lifted her, checked her vitals, loaded her onto the stretcher. Malik stood frozen for a second, then ran after them. Can I go with her? He asked. One of the paramedics glanced at him. You family? She my mom. A beat, then a nod. Get in. The ride to the hospital blurred together. Flashing lights, cold air, the sound of machines. Malik sat beside her, holding her hand, even though she couldn't hold back. Stay, he whispered again. Just stay. The hospital doors opened. Different entrance this time. Not the one he walked through yesterday. Not the one where people whispered. This one was louder, faster. Emergency. They rushed her through. Malik tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. You can't go past here, she said. But that's my mom. They'll take care of her, she said firmly. You need to wait. Wait. Malik stood there, breathing hard, staring at the doors that had just closed in front of him. Wait. He didn't know how to do that. Time passed. Or maybe it didn't. The clock on the wall ticked, but it didn't feel real. Malik sat in a plastic chair, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tight. He didn't cry. Not yet. Because if he started, he didn't know if he'd stop. A doctor finally came out. Mid-50s, tired eyes, calm voice. Are you Malik? He asked. Malik stood up immediately. Yeah. She's stable, the doctor said, but she's very weak. Her condition's been untreated for a while, hasn't it? Malik didn't answer. He didn't need to. The doctor nodded slightly. We're going to admit her, he continued, but she'll need medication, ongoing care. Malik swallowed. How much? The doctor hesitated, then said, it's not something you should worry about right now. That meant it was. Malik nodded slowly. Can I see her? Briefly. They let him in. Angela lay in another bed now. Different room, different machines, but the same silence. Malik walked over slowly. Hey, he said softly. Her eyes opened just a little. Malik. I'm here, he said quickly. She smiled faintly. Always are. He forced a smile back. Yeah. She looked at him for a long moment, then said, You missed work. Malik blinked. That don't matter. It does, she whispered. Malik shook his head. You matter more. She closed her eyes again, too tired to argue. Malik stayed there for a while. Then a nurse came in. You'll have to step out, she said gently. Malik nodded. He stepped back into the hallway. And that's when it hit him. Everything. Work. Money. The apartment. The hospital bills. He stood there, frozen. Then he ran. Back outside, back through the cold, back to the diner. Mr. Jenkins looked up as he burst through the door. You late again. My mom in the hospital, Malik said quickly. I need to. Mr. Jenkins cut him off. You missed your shift yesterday, too. Malik blinked. I told you. I had to. I can't run a business like this, the man said flatly. I need people I can count on. Malik's chest tightened. I'll make it up. No, Jenkins said. You're done. The words hit harder than anything else that day. Malik stood there, not moving, not speaking. I'm sorry, kid, Jenkins added, but it didn't sound like it. Malik nodded slowly. Yeah, he said, then turned and walked out. The cold felt sharper now, the city louder, everything heavier. By the time he made it back to the apartment, the door had a notice on it. Bright, clear, unforgiving. Eviction. Malik stared at it. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. Everything. Gone. He leaned his head against the door for a moment, then straightened. Because there was one place he needed to be, one place that mattered. The hospital. He started walking, faster this time. But when he got there, the weight hit him again. His mom, bills, no job, no home. And down the hallway, room 427, Whitmore, waiting. Malik stopped, right in the middle of the corridor. His chest tightened, his hands curled into fists. He couldn't do both. He couldn't be everywhere, for everyone. Not anymore. For the first time, he hesitated. He looked toward the emergency wing, then toward the long hallway where Whitmore was. 2 directions. 2 lives. 1 choice. Malik took a step back, then another, and slowly, he turned away from room 427, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. And somewhere down that quiet hallway, a man who had finally found someone to stay was about to be left alone again, and this time, he wouldn't know why. Room 427 felt colder than it had in days. The machines still hummed. The lights still buzzed overhead. The city still moved beyond the window like nothing had changed. But something had. Whitmore lay in the same bed, in the same position, eyes half open, waiting. The chair beside him was empty. He noticed it immediately. He didn't need to ask. He knew. You said you'd come back, he whispered to the silence. No answer. Only the steady rhythm of the monitor. Hours passed. Nurses came and went, checking charts, adjusting tubes, speaking in low professional tones. None of them stayed long. None of them spoke more than necessary. Whitmore watched the door. Every time it opened, his eyes shifted. Every time it closed, something inside him dimmed just a little more. Has anyone? He started once, his voice thin. The nurse shook her head gently. No visitors today. Whitmore nodded. Of course. That's how it always ended. People said they would stay. People said they cared. And then life pulled them away. Money. Work. Family. Excuses. He closed his eyes. I should have known, he murmured. Outside, the storm from the night before had passed. The sky was clearer now, pale blue pushing through gray. But inside the room, nothing felt lighter. The door opened again late that afternoon. Whitmore didn't look this time, didn't want to be disappointed again. But the voices told him everything he needed to know. His daughter, the lawyer, back again. I assume he hasn't come back, she said quietly. No, the lawyer replied. No sign of him. Whitmore didn't move. See? She continued. I told you. It was never real. A pause. He saw what he could get and left. Whitmore's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Not this time. Because part of him believed it. Not because Malik had seemed like that, but because everyone else always had, and patterns were hard to ignore. He's just a kid, the lawyer added, from that kind of background. That kind of background? She repeated. You mean poor? Desperate? Invisible until there's money involved? Whitmore turned his head slightly. Stop, he said. The word was quiet, but it cut through the room. They both fell silent. Whitmore stared at the empty chair again. I told you, he said slowly. He's not like that. His daughter crossed her arms. Then where is he? Whitmore didn't answer, because he didn't know, and that hurt more than anything else. The hours stretched into night. No footsteps. No small voice saying, hey. No paper bag with a cheap sandwich. Just the machines. Just the silence. Just the truth settling in. Maybe Malik had meant it. Maybe he hadn't. But either way, he was gone. And Whitmore was alone again. The next morning, his condition worsened. It was subtle at first, a slower breath, a longer pause between heartbeats. But the nurses noticed, the doctors noticed. And by afternoon, the room was full again. Not with family, not with warmth, with urgency, with clinical voices. We need to adjust. Vitals are dropping. Get Dr. Reynolds. Whitmore drifted in and out of awareness, the voices blending together into something distant. He didn't fight it, didn't have the strength. But in the quiet moments, between the noise, he thought about one thing. A boy, sitting in a chair, refusing to leave. You shouldn't die like that. The words echoed in his mind, soft, stubborn, real. Whitmore let out a weak breath. I tried, he whispered, but trying came too late sometimes. The room blurred. The machines grew louder, then softer, then still. Time stopped, just for a moment, and then it moved again. But without him. The official time of death was recorded. The machines were turned off. The room fell silent. Whitmore was gone. And just like that, the man who had built empires left the world the same way he had feared, in a quiet room, with no one beside him. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. The news spread quickly. William Whitmore passed this morning. Natural causes, end-stage complications. By evening, the hospital had already moved on. Another patient would take the room. Another story would begin. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, the real storm was just starting. 2 days later, the funeral was held in a large chapel downtown. It was elegant, expensive, perfectly arranged. Black cars lined the street. Men in suits stood in quiet clusters, speaking in low tones about investments and legacy. Women in dark dresses whispered behind gloved hands. Flowers filled the room. White, perfect, impersonal. Whitmore's daughter stood at the front, composed, distant. The lawyer stood beside her, holding a folder. People came, paid their respects, spoke about success, about influence, about what he had built. No one spoke about who he had been. No one spoke about what he had lost. And no one, not one person, asked why there had been no one in that hospital room. Malik wasn't there. No one noticed, because no one knew to look. The service ended. The crowd thinned. The conversations shifted from grief to logistics. And then, the lawyer stepped forward. "There is one more matter," he said. The room quieted slightly. Whitmore's daughter frowned. "This isn't the time." "It is exactly the time," he replied. He opened the folder slowly. "There is a document," he said, "that Mr. Whitmore instructed me to withhold until after his passing." The room grew still. "What document?" she asked. The lawyer looked down at the page, then read, "To be delivered, for the boy who stayed." Silence. Confused. Sharp. The daughter's expression hardened. "What does that mean?" The lawyer closed the folder gently. "I believe," he said, "that is something we are about to find out." Across town, far from the polished floors and quiet wealth, Malik sat in a hard plastic chair outside another hospital room. Same building, different wing. His head rested against the wall, eyes closed, exhaustion pulling him under. Inside the room, his mother lay still. Machines surrounding her. Breathing shallow. Alive. But fragile. Malik hadn't left her side in 2 days. Hadn't slept properly. Hadn't eaten much. Hadn't thought about anything else. Room 427 felt like another world now. Another life. Another responsibility he couldn't carry anymore. He didn't know. He didn't know that Whitmore was gone. He didn't know about the funeral, the whispers, the assumptions, the document. He didn't know that somewhere, his name had already been written into something bigger than he could imagine. All he knew was that he had tried to stay, and somehow still lost everything. The hallway lights flickered softly above him. A nurse walked past, her steps quiet. Malik didn't move, didn't open his eyes, because if he did, he might have to face what came next. And for the first time, he didn't know what that was. The years didn't pass all at once. They moved slowly at first, heavy, uneven, like every day carried more weight than the last. Then one day, Malik realized he wasn't counting them anymore. 5 years had gone by. Detroit didn't look the same. Or maybe it did. The cracked sidewalks were still there. The corner stores still had flickering lights. The buses still roared past with tired brakes and louder engines. But something had changed. People talked differently now. You could hear it in the way they spoke at the diner, on the bus, outside churches on Sunday mornings. "There's this organization. They paid for her surgery. My nephew got into school because of them. No one knows who's behind it." The name didn't matter, because it didn't have one people could agree on. Some called it a foundation. Some called it a miracle. Others, something else. But everyone knew one thing. Someone was watching. Someone was helping. Someone remembered the people everyone else forgot. And in a quiet building, just a few blocks from where Malik used to live, that someone sat behind a worn wooden desk. Older now. Taller. Shoulders broader, but still carrying the same quiet weight. Malik Carter, 17. He looked different. Not because of clothes. Those were still simple. Clean, but never expensive. Not because of where he lived. He still chose the same neighborhood. But because of his eyes. They had changed. They had seen things. Lost things. Carried things. And never let go, and a file sat open in front of him. Medical records. A child. 8 years old. Needed treatment their family couldn't afford. Malik read every line carefully, not skimming, not rushing, because he knew what it felt like to be on the other side of that paper. He picked up a pen. Approved. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. He just closed the file and set it aside. Another one. Another story. Another chance to make sure someone didn't have to sit alone in a room like that again. Outside the office, voices moved through the hallway. Volunteers, nurses, people who had come from nothing and now gave everything. Mr. Carter? Malik looked up. A woman stood at the door. Early 30s, tired but hopeful. Yes, ma'am. She stepped inside, holding a folder tight against her chest. I just wanted to say thank you, she said. My father, he wouldn't have made it without this place. Malik nodded slowly. I'm glad we could help. She hesitated, then asked, Why do you do it? Malik didn't answer right away. He leaned back slightly in his chair, his eyes drifting, not to the window, not to the city, but somewhere deeper. A memory. A hospital room. A man who had been alone. A voice that had said, You shouldn't die like that. Malik blinked once, then looked back at her. Because somebody did it for me once, he said. The woman nodded, tears in her eyes. Well, it matters, she whispered. Then she left. The door closed softly behind her. Malik sat there for a moment. Still. Quiet. Then reached into his drawer. Inside, a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges, carefully preserved. He unfolded it slowly. His handwriting. From years ago. You're not alone. Malik stared at it for a long moment, then folded it again. Set it back. Because some things weren't meant to be forgotten. Across town, the hospital still stood. Same building, same halls, different people, different stories. But some rooms held more than just memories. Malik stepped through the doors just before sunset. The air inside smelled the same. Antiseptic, quiet, heavy. He hadn't been back here in years. Not since... He stopped that thought. Didn't need to finish it. He walked down the hallway slowly, each step echoing louder than it should. People glanced at him as he passed. But this time, they didn't whisper. They didn't question. They nodded. Some even smiled. Because now, he belonged. He stopped near the end of the corridor, not at room 427. That room had changed. Different number, different life, different story. But the feeling, that stayed. Malik stood there, looking at the door, not opening it. Not yet. Because even after 5 years, some moments still carried weight. Some memories still asked questions, and one of them still hadn't been answered. Why had everything happened the way it did? Why him? Why that night? Why that room? Behind him, footsteps approached. A familiar voice spoke. Malik Carter. He turned slowly. The man standing there was older now. Gray suit. Same sharp eyes. The lawyer. Whitmore's lawyer. Malik's expression didn't change. But something inside him shifted. It's been a long time, the man said. Malik nodded. Yeah. The lawyer studied him for a moment, then said, There's something you need to see. Malik didn't move, didn't speak, because somewhere deep inside, he already knew. Whatever came next was going to change everything again. Malik didn't move right away. The hallway stretched long and quiet behind the lawyer, the soft hum of hospital life filling the space between them. For a moment, it felt like time had folded in on itself, like he was 12 again, standing outside a room he didn't belong in, about to step into something he didn't understand. Only now he wasn't that boy anymore. I've been looking for you, the lawyer said, adjusting his coat slightly. Not that you're hard to find. Malik gave a faint, almost humorless smile. People talk. They do, the man replied, especially when someone changes a city without putting their name on it. Malik didn't respond, because that part wasn't the point. The lawyer stepped closer, lowering his voice. Walk with me. Malik hesitated, then nodded. They moved down the hallway together, past nurses, past quiet rooms, past lives unfolding behind closed doors. The lawyer didn't speak for a while, like he was giving the moment space to breathe. Finally, you never came back, he said. Malik's jaw tightened slightly. I tried, he replied. Life didn't let me. The lawyer studied him. I figured as much. They reached a quiet corner near a set of windows overlooking the city. The sun was low now, casting long golden shadows across Detroit, softening the edges of everything that had once felt so hard. The lawyer turned to face him. You should know something, he said. William Whitmore never believed you left him. Malik blinked. What? He argued with everyone about it, the lawyer continued. Even when it became clear you weren't coming back. He insisted there was a reason. Malik swallowed. I didn't know, I know, the lawyer said gently. That's why I'm here. He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a thick envelope, worn, sealed. He held it for a moment before handing it over. Malik didn't take it immediately. What is it? He asked. The lawyer met his eyes. Everything. Silence. The word felt too big, too heavy, too final. Malik slowly reached out and took the envelope. It felt heavier than it should, like it carried more than paper. Open it, the lawyer said. Malik hesitated, then carefully broke the seal. Inside, documents. Official, stamped, signed. But on top of everything, a letter, handwritten. Malik's breath caught. He recognized the handwriting. Unsteady, but real. Whitmore's. His hands tightened slightly as he unfolded it. The world around him faded. The hallway, the voices, the city beyond the glass. All gone. Just words. Just a voice he hadn't heard in 5 years. Malik. If you're reading this, it means I ran out of time. And if that's true, then there's something I need you to understand before anything else. You didn't leave me. Not in the way people think. Because the truth is, you stayed longer than anyone ever has. You stayed when it mattered. You stayed when I had nothing left to offer you. You stayed when there was no reason to. And that, more than anything I built in my life, is what changed me. Malik's vision blurred slightly. He blinked, kept reading. I spent my whole life believing value came from what you could give people. Money, power, opportunity. But you showed me something I didn't understand until it was too late. Sometimes the only thing a person needs is someone who doesn't walk away. You gave me that. In the end. And because of that, I'm giving you something in return. Malik's hands trembled slightly now. He lowered the letter for a second, looked at the lawyer. What is this? He asked quietly. The lawyer didn't answer. Keep reading, he said. Malik swallowed, then continued. Not because you need it, not because you asked for it, but because I trust you with it. Everything I built, everything I left behind, it's yours to guide now. Not to keep, not to control, but to use, to do what I should have done a long time ago. Help people who have no one. Sit beside those everyone else walks past. Be what you already are. Malik's breath caught. His heart pounded louder now. He flipped to the documents beneath the letter. Legal language. Clear. Unmistakable. Trust ownership. Asset control. Foundation authority. Numbers. Too big to process. Hundreds of millions. His fingers tightened on the page. This, he whispered. This ain't real. The lawyer stepped closer. It is. Malik shook his head. I didn't do nothing for that. I know, the lawyer said. That's exactly why he chose you. Malik looked back down at the letter. There was more. You once told me not to die alone. You gave me something I didn't deserve. A moment of peace. A reason to believe I wasn't completely lost. Now I'm giving you something I never gave anyone else. A chance to change lives before it's too late. Not just yours. Others. Hundreds. Thousands. Maybe more. And if you ever doubt why you were chosen, remember this. You were the only one who stayed. Malik closed his eyes. The words settled deep. Not loud. Not overwhelming. Just real. He folded the letter slowly, carefully, like it mattered. Because it did. For a long moment he didn't speak, didn't move. Then finally, I didn't do it for this, he said. The lawyer nodded. I know. Malik looked up. That's why I can't keep it. The lawyer studied him. Are you sure? Malik shook his head slowly. I ain't keeping it, he said. But I ain't letting it go to waste either. A pause. Then, I already started something, Malik added. For people like him. Like my mom, like everybody nobody sees. The lawyer's expression softened. I've heard. Malik nodded. Then that's where it goes, he said. All of it. Silence. Then the lawyer smiled. Not the polite kind, the real kind. He chose right, he said quietly. Malik didn't answer. Because this wasn't about being right. This was about finishing something that had already started years ago, in a room where no one stayed. Except him. He looked down at the letter one more time, then back at the hallway, at the hospital, at the place where everything had changed, and for the first time, he understood. It had never been about money. It had never been about inheritance. It had always been about something simpler, something harder, something most people missed, staying. And now he wasn't just the boy who stayed. He was the one who made sure no one else had to be alone again. But even that, even everything Malik had built, wasn't the full story. Not yet. The lawyer watched him carefully, like he was waiting for something more. And when Malik finally looked up again, there was a quiet shift in his expression. Not confusion, not shock, something deeper. What else is there? Malik asked. Because he could feel it. There was more. The lawyer nodded slowly. I was hoping you'd ask that. He reached back into his briefcase, pulled out another item, smaller this time, a thin, sealed envelope, different from the first. This one wasn't official. No stamps, no signatures, just a name written across the front. Malik, handwritten, slightly uneven. Malik's chest tightened. That's a second letter, the lawyer said. He told me to give it to you only after you understood the first. Malik stared at it for a long moment, then took it. Carefully. Like it might disappear if he moved too fast. The hallway felt quieter now, like the building itself was holding its breath. He opened it slowly, unfolded the paper, and read. Malik, if you're reading this, then you've already seen what I left behind. The money, the power, the responsibility. And I know what you're thinking. That it's too much. That you didn't earn it. That it doesn't belong to you. You're wrong. Malik swallowed. The words hit harder this time, because they felt like Whitmore was standing right there, saying them out loud. You earned it the moment you stayed. Not because you gave me something material, but because you gave me something no one else ever did. You treated me like I mattered, not like a name, not like a mistake, not like a man who had already lost everything, but like a human being. And I need you to understand something, Malik. That matters more than anything I ever built. Malik's fingers tightened around the paper. He kept reading. People will tell you that what I gave you is about money. It's not. It's about trust. It's about knowing that someone out there sees what others ignore and chooses to act anyway. You don't need to become me. In fact, I hope you never do. Because I had everything, and I still ended up alone. Until you showed up. Malik blinked slowly. The memory came back again. That room, that chair, that voice. So don't use what I gave you to build something big. Use it to build something real. One person at a time. One life at a time. Because that's how you change the world. Not all at once, but quietly. Consistently. Like you did for me. Malik lowered the letter slightly. His breathing slowed. Something inside him settled. Like a question he had been carrying for years finally found its answer. He looked at the lawyer. He knew, Malik said quietly. Yes, the lawyer replied. He did. Malik nodded, then looked back down. There was one final part. And there's one more thing you need to know. I didn't save you, Malik. You saved me. In the only way that mattered. Before it was too late. So if you ever doubt yourself, if you ever wonder why you were chosen, remember this. You gave me a life before I died. Now I'm giving you lives to change. Don't waste it. The letter ended there. No signature. No flourish. Just space. Malik stared at the blank page for a long time, then slowly folded it, carefully, just like the first. Because this one wasn't about money. It wasn't about responsibility. It was about something harder to carry, something heavier. Purpose. The lawyer spoke again, softer this time. There's one more thing, he said. Malik looked up. The foundation, the lawyer continued. It's not just yours to run. Malik frowned slightly. What do you mean? The lawyer adjusted his glasses. He didn't just leave you control, he said. He structured everything so it grows, beyond you. Malik listened. Every decision you make, the lawyer went on, every life you touch, it multiplies. The system is built to expand based on your choices. Malik's expression shifted. Not fear, not pressure. Something else. Understanding. So it doesn't stop, Malik said. No, the lawyer replied. It doesn't. A long silence followed. Then Malik let out a slow breath. Good, he said. Because that was the point. Not to end something. To keep it going. He looked down the hallway again. The same hallway he had walked through as a kid no one trusted. The same place where people had whispered about him. Judged him. Doubted him. And now those same walls held something different. Not suspicion, not doubt. Respect. But Malik didn't care about that. Not really. Because the work wasn't about being seen. It was about seeing others. He slipped both letters back into his pocket, then turned to the lawyer. "I got somewhere I need to be," he said. The lawyer nodded. "I figured you might." Malik didn't wait. He started walking. Not toward the exit. Not toward the past. But forward. Down another hallway. Toward another room. Because somewhere, right now, someone was sitting alone, and they didn't even know that someone was coming. And this time, Malik did. He didn't hesitate, didn't second guess, didn't look back. The hallway stretched ahead of him, long and quiet, the same dull glow of fluorescent lights reflecting off polished floors. But this time it didn't feel cold. It felt familiar, like a place he understood now, a place he belonged. He walked past nurses who nodded as he passed, past patients who barely noticed him, past doors that held stories he would never fully know, until he reached one. Room 312. The door was slightly open. Malik paused, not because he was unsure, but because he remembered. The first time. The wrong room. The moment that changed everything. He took a slow breath, then pushed the door open. Inside, the air felt still. Not empty, but close to it. An old man lay in the bed, thinner than he should have been, eyes half closed, staring at nothing in particular. The television flickered silently in the corner, casting soft blue light across the room. No flowers, no cards, no voices, no one, just like before. Malik stepped inside quietly, letting the door close behind him with a soft click. The man didn't notice at first. Or maybe he did, and just didn't expect anyone to speak. Malik walked over to the small table near the window, set something down. A simple bouquet. Sunflowers. Bright. Alive. Out of place in a room like this. Then he pulled the chair closer, sat down. The same way he had years ago. No rush, no noise, just presence. The man's eyes shifted slowly, landed on Malik. Confusion at first, then something softer. "You with the hospital?" the man asked, his voice dry. Malik shook his head. "No, sir." A pause. Then the man frowned slightly. "Then why are you here?" Malik leaned back just a little. Not defensive, not uncomfortable, just honest. "Because you shouldn't be alone," he said. The words settled into the room. Quiet, simple, heavy. The man blinked slowly, like he was trying to process something that didn't quite make sense. "That's so," he murmured. Malik nodded. "Yes, sir." Another pause. Longer this time. Then, a faint shift in the man's expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "Well," he said softly, "you're the first one who's said anything to me all day." Malik didn't react, didn't make it bigger than it was. Because he knew, sometimes the smallest things mattered the most. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Malik." The man nodded slightly. "Name's Harold." Malik reached over to the table, picked up one of the flowers, adjusted it gently in the vase. "They look good in here," he said. Harold glanced at them. They do. Another quiet moment passed. Then Harold spoke again. You get paid for this? Malik smiled faintly. No, sir. Then why do it? Malik didn't answer right away, because there were a lot of ways to explain it, but only one that mattered. Because someone did it for me once, he said. Harold looked at him more closely now, really looked, and something in his eyes changed. Not suspicion, not doubt. Recognition, I see, he said. Malik nodded. They sat in silence for a while. Not awkward, not forced. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't hurt. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting golden light through the window, softening the edges of the room. Malik glanced around. Same machines, same sounds, same feeling. But different now. Because someone was there. He reached into his pocket, felt the letters. Didn't take them out. Didn't need to. Because their meaning was already here, in this room, in this moment. Harold shifted slightly. You gonna stay long? He asked. Malik looked at him, then at the chair, then back again. I got time, he said, and he meant it, because time was something he understood now, something he didn't waste, something he gave. Freely, without expecting anything back. Harold nodded slowly. Good, he said. And for the first time since Malik walked in, the room didn't feel like a place someone came to be forgotten. It felt like somewhere. Someone was seen. Somewhere. Someone mattered. Later that evening, as the hospital lights dimmed and the world outside slowed, Malik stood to leave. He adjusted the blanket slightly, checked the flowers one more time, then stepped back. I'll be back tomorrow, he said. Harold looked at him. You don't have to do that. Malik gave a small smile. I know. Then he turned, walked toward the door. But before he stepped out, he paused, just for a second, and said, You're not alone. The words hung in the air, soft, certain, real. Then he left. The hallway welcomed him again. Same lights, same quiet. But now it felt full, because somewhere behind him, a room that had been empty wasn't anymore. And somewhere ahead, there would be another, and another, and another. Because that's how it worked. Not all at once, not in big moments, but in small ones. Repeated, consistent, real. Malik walked toward the exit, the city lights beginning to glow beyond the glass doors. 5 years ago, he had been a boy no one trusted, a kid people whispered about, a kid people assumed the worst about. But they were wrong, because he was never there for the money, never there for the future, never there for what he could get. He was there because someone needed him, and that never changed. Not then, not now, not ever. Outside, the night air was cool. The city moved around him, cars passing, people talking, life continuing. Malik stepped onto the sidewalk, took a breath, and for a moment, he looked back at the hospital, at the place where everything had started, not with regret, not with pain, but with something else. Gratitude. Because sometimes the wrong room led you exactly where you were meant to be, and sometimes the smallest act of kindness echoed further than anyone could ever imagine. Malik turned, walked forward, into the city, into the night, into the life he had built, one person at a time. And somewhere behind him, in a quiet room with sunflowers by the window, a man who had been alone wasn't anymore. And that was everything. Because in the end, it wasn't the money, the foundation, or the legacy that defined Malik Carter. It was that quiet moment in room 312 when he sat down beside a stranger and simply said, "You're not alone." Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can give someone isn't advice or help or even answers. It's your presence, especially when everyone else has already walked away. Malik didn't change the world with words. He changed it by staying when it mattered most. So the next time you see someone sitting alone, at a hospital, on a bus, or even in your own life, just pause for a second. Do what Malik did. Sit down, say something simple, and remind them they're not invisible. If this story touched you, comment one below, and tell me, have you ever stayed for someone when it would have been easier to walk away? Because in the next story, someone does walk away, and what happens next will stay with you.